Board members, when I call your name, if you'd announce your presence to establish a quorum. Ms. Davis. I think you're on mute. Ms. Davis?
I am present. I'm sorry. I'm present.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Carpenek?
Present.
Mr. Newton?
Present.
Awesome, and I'm present, so we have 4 people which are needed to establish a quorum, and so we will call the meeting to order.
Good afternoon. The Metropolitan Board of Zoning Appeals is now in session for the regularly scheduled meeting of September 17th, 2020. My name is Lisa Minton, and I will be presenting the cases to the board for the review in today's public hearing. We are convened electronically pursuant to Governor Lee's executive orders number 16, 34, and 51 in order to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak and still conduct essential business of the metropolitan government. Before we move on with the meeting, the governor's executive order requires a motion to proceed electronically. Staff would solicit a motion to proceed electronically at this time.
All right, I'll make that motion. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion to proceed electronically? Mr. Newton seconded that motion. And seeing no discussion, we'll call the question and ask for a vote. Ms. Carpenek?
In favor.
Mr. Newton?
In favor.
Ms. Davis?
In favor.
I vote in favor also. The meeting is held electronically today, telephonically.
In order to convene this meeting pursuant to that executive order, board members are participating remotely, and we encourage members of the public to submit comments in support or opposition to the board electronically at bza@nashville.gov. Comments received by 12 o'clock noon yesterday, Wednesday, September 16th, were provided to the board for consideration prior to the hearing. A remote station will be set up here at the Sunny West Conference Room for anyone who is unable to submit their comments electronically and wishes to make comments. Additionally, board chairman David Taylor is here, and social distancing measures have been implemented. For these public hearings, the board reviews the correspondence submitted in support of and opposition to these cases. The board also reviews correspondence and recommendations from other government agencies in preparation for the hearings. In today's hearings, staff will present the site plans, maps, photographs, and other documents that comprise the case record. At the conclusion of the staff presentation, the appellant will present his or her case to the board. After the appellant's presentation, if anyone is here wishing to speak in support of the appeal, they may do so. If any opposition is present, the board will then hear from those parties. After the opposition presents its testimony, the appellant will have a period of rebuttal. According to the BZA rules, the appellant has 5 minutes for presentation if no opposition is present. In contested cases, the BZA rules will allow 10 minutes for each side to present testimony. Should the appellant wish to provide rebuttal testimony, the appellant should reserve some portion of that allotted 10 minutes. At the conclusion of each hearing, the board will deliberate telephonically and then vote on the case. The board is vested with the power to act on these cases under the provisions of Metro Zoning Code Section 1740-180. All sections that we refer to come from the Metro Zoning Code, which applies to the entire jurisdiction of the metropolitan government. The zoning code was adopted by the Metro Council and became effective on July 1st, 1998. I will introduce the entire zoning code and make it part of today's record. The Metro Code requires a record of these proceedings, and because BZA meetings are recorded from Metro and Nashville Network, and because the board is hearing cases telephonically, it is imperative that anyone addressing the board today come forward to the podium here at the Sunny West Conference Center and speak into the microphone. All speakers should identify themselves by name and address and then make the desired presentation. The Metro Code requires 4 members of our 7-member board to establish quorum. The code also requires at least 4 affirmative votes to grant an appeal. In the event that 5 or more members are present, but the appeal fails to receive 4 affirmative votes, the case will remain on the board's agenda for the next 30 days. Applications that fail to receive 4 affirmative votes within 30 days of the public hearing shall be deemed denied by operation of law. Pursuant to board rules, an aggrieved party may appeal the board's decision to Chancery or Circuit Court within 60 days of the entry of the BZA order. Additionally, as per the BZA rules, an aggrieved party may file a motion for rehearing by the BZA within 60 days of the original hearing date. After that time elapses, the board's decision becomes final and no further actions can be taken. If your appeal is granted, you are required to obtain the permit for which you applied. A permit must be obtained within 2 years for the board approval to remain valid. It should also be noted that if false or misleading testimony is presented to the board, any board approval could be revoked at a later date by means of a show cause hearing before the BZA. Mr. Chairman, I submit that all cases have been filed in proper order, all appellants have been notified by certified mail, and all legal notice requirements have been fulfilled.
Great. Thank you.
There are a few preliminary announcements regarding deferrals. Cases 2020-186, 2020-187, and 2020-189 have all been deferred to the October 1st meeting. The consent agenda was published on September 11th and again September 16th, 2020. So anyone wishing to pull an item from consent could do so electronically. We did not receive any requests to pull anything from the previously published consent agenda. However, as previously stated, we are here at the station set up at the Sunny West Conference Room for anyone wishing to appear in person to pull an item from the consent agenda. We'll enter into the record those cases that have been so recommended, and if anyone is here in opposition to one of the cases identified for the consent agenda, we will remove the case from the consent agenda and hear it in its regular order. We have 2 cases on the consent agenda today. Case 2020-180, located at 544 McMurray Drive. Is there anyone here in opposition to case 2020-180? Seeing none. Other cases, case 2020-188, located at 1010 Wade Avenue. Is there anyone here in opposition to case 2020-188? Seeing none. Mr. Chairman, staff would solicit a vote to the board at this time.
There's a motion for the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Seconded.
All right, I believe I heard Mr. Newton second that. Is there any discussion? We will take a vote. Mr. Newton.
In favor.
Ms. Davis.
In favor.
Ms. Carpenter.
In favor.
I'll vote in favor also. That motion passes and the consent agenda passes.
Members of the public, if your case was just approved on the consent agenda, please give our staff until Monday to process all the documentation associated with your appeal, at which point you may come in to pursue those permits for which you have applied. We also have 2 previously heard cases that are requiring board action. First case is 2020-176, located at 2404 A and B Middle Street. It failed, previously it was heard on September 3rd and failed to receive 4 affirmative votes.
Okay, and I will just for the record state that I was the member, a member absent from that meeting, and I did review both of these cases and the case file, and I'm prepared to participate in both of the cases. And so this case 176 was asking for a 10-foot rear setback instead of 20, I believe. And there was a motion to deny that had 3 votes, and is that right?
Correct.
3 votes to deny and 2 votes in support of the variance. There are only 4 of us here today, and so it would take all 4 of us to approve this variance. Again, I think it was Ms. Carpenter that said during the hearing that, you know, there was a little bit of maybe didn't like the site plan, but that was the choice. And I was empathetic to that side of things with the sewer easement going down the driveway, and especially with the alley behind the home being unimproved. It didn't seem to, the 10-foot setback didn't seem to impose anything on the rear neighbor. So I didn't have a problem with the variance, but if I voted yes, it would only be 3 votes. So I think the thing to do is to probably make a motion one way or the other, and then just see how things fall. And I think it can also stay on the docket, maybe one more meeting if it fails to get 4 votes.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, I'll move that we approve the variance based on the hardship of the sewer easement and the minimal impact based on the unimproved alley behind the home. Ms. Carpenter?
I'll second that.
I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, then we'll call the question and start with Ms. Davis.
I oppose.
Ms. Carpenter?
In favor of the motion.
Mr. Newton? Mr. Newton?
In favor.
All right, and I'll vote in favor. So that motion is still held up in votes, 3 votes in favor, 1 vote against, and will be considered at the next meeting. Since all members at this point have voted on a motion, then one way or the other, a member would have to reconsider for it to have 4 votes. If it fails to get 4 votes, then it will be just denied based on the lack of attaining 4 votes over the period of time it needs to do that. And so we will now go to case 178. And that case is one where there was the variance was for a landscape buffer. It received 3 yes votes and 2 no votes in order to provide that variance. And on hearing this case, you know, I really wanted to hear more from the urban forester, and frankly not prepared to vote on this one way or the other, in the hopes that the urban forester can work with the applicant to possibly achieve a solution that may not be required to come to us. But if it is required to come to us, I would like to have at least more support from the urban forester. So, you know, I would prefer, well, I guess if we don't take an action at all, it has the same effect, but I would prefer to defer this to the next meeting, which is still within their window to receive the votes, just to see if the parties can work something out acceptable to both. And so I'll move in this one that we defer this to the next meeting.
That meeting date will be October 1st, 2020.
And if I don't get a second, then we can continue to talk. Ms. Carver.
Chairman, this is Quan Poole from Metro
I'm sorry, Mr. Poole?
Well, I was just going to ask, are you requesting that someone be present at that next meeting on October the 1st from the urban forester? Is that I guess, is that a part of your motion, or?
No, I mean,
I just want to
I
make
think,
sure if
I think,
it is, we just have someone there, so that way we don't get to October 1st and,
yeah,
and we're relying
it can
on
be
them
done,
and then no one's here.
Yeah, Mr. Poole, I think I was just thinking informally. I mean, you know, even I know the parties have been talking, and if the urban forester can, you know, a written, you know, anything written saying, hey, you know, we've agreed to this, or I can support this if you do it, or I hate it and I don't want to do it. I want there to be one more swing at it that way, and to allow some time for that, and that's basically, you know, why I would like to defer it. And I think that there, you know, again, just upon reviewing, when we reviewed the consent agenda and we're talking through these cases, I think there is a path maybe even to have it done administratively if they fully comply with codes, which is great because that means they don't come to us asking for a variance. And so, you know, my preference is to exhaust that through the time period that this can still be held, and hopefully come up with something that is more agreeable to both the forester and the applicant.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, sir.
We'll just be sure either they have something in the record or they're present, one or the other, if it gets to that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be, nice to just have something from, you know, from Stefan saying this is, you know, we've either exhausted, you know, we're not going to agree, or this is what we can agree to that still requires a variant. Does that answer what you were talking about?
It does, yes.
Okay. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Is there a second to that or other options that the board would like to consider? Ms. Carpenter?
Can you restate the motion one more time?
It's just to defer the case to the next meeting to allow the parties to continue to try to work a solution that's acceptable to both.
Okay, I can second that, but I felt that in the testimony last time that all the avenues had already been exhausted. But I'd be willing to hear again on it, so I'll second it.
Okay. Well, and okay, there's a motion and a second, and any other discussion? Then Mr. Newton.
Yeah, I think my impression on it was the same as Ms. Carpenter's, that they kind of exhausted all the other options, but I'm okay with waiting, till next meeting as well, though.
Okay. Well, and that may very well be true, and and again, the goal wasn't to. Basically, it was I wasn't prepared to vote yes on it, although I think that they have a hardship, and hopefully we'll have a resolution. And if I don't vote yes on it, then it's not going to pass today. And so I thought, well, let's just defer it to 2 meetings. If they can come up with something great, if they don't, then we'll decide one way or the other. And so that was just the main reason for the deferral. Any other discussion? Okay, then we'll call the question and vote and call on Ms. Davis.
I vote in favor.
Ms. Carpenter?
In favor.
Mr. Newton?
In favor.
I'll vote in favor also, so we will hear that on October 1st. And now hear the first case, which I think was one that was on the docket last time, but the applicant, or for some reason it was deferred. I think that all the parties weren't here.
Correct. The first case to be heard today is case 2020-177, located at 421 Veritas Street. This was deferred to allow the applicant to be here. Is there anyone here in opposition to case 2020-177? No one is here in opposition, so I will go through the slides and then we'll give the appellant opportunity to state his case. Excuse me while I go through the previous slides that we will not be viewing. Oops. Here we go. They are seeking a variance from the requirement of 100% building frontage width along the street setback, and also the location of the parking within the OR20 district. Here's the overview of the zoning map. There's aerial. Here's their site plan with their proposed parking and the building location. They're requesting a reduction of a 5-foot, essentially a 5-foot setback from each side of the building, I believe, which will result in an 80% frontage building rather than the required 100%. And they're also requiring to locate all the parking in front of the building rather than to the sides and rear.
And Lisa, this may be new to, well, I guess our newest member's an architect, so you probably, Logan, not to speak for you, but I'm sure you understood this better than I did. But what they're asking is to be further away from the property line than the code requires. Most variances want you to be closer to the property line, but this one actually requires you to be from property line to property line, a 0 setback, and they want to be 5 at each side.
Correct. It's a frontage.
It's just a different type of setback than we're used to hearing. I just want to make sure the board got that.
And then there's the existing site as
it's mowed now.
It's mowed. Okay. And then here are views along the same street. So the appellant, if you'll introduce yourself by name and address. I believe it's on.
Okay. My name is Rob Cushman. I live in 1019 Avery Trace Circle in Hendersonville. Is that okay? Just to make sure you can hear me. 1019 Avery Trace Circle in Hendersonville. my request today is twofold. One for a side setback variance, which is opposite of the norm. We're actually going from a 0 side setback and requesting a 5 foot on either side. The hardship there for us is that the lot is sloped from rear to front, and I need to get my stormwater around the building to the front, to the rain gardens in the front of the structure. So, and also it is a currently residential, mostly residential area. So building to the side setback, I think it would be detrimental to the neighbors because we would be building pretty much right on top of the neighboring single family homes. The second variance that I'm requesting for parking, the hardship that I have is this is a commercial district, OR 20 zone property. If I built 2 units, which we could do, and it would be considered residential, we would be required a 12-foot drive aisle. We're building, instead of 2 2,000-foot units in a very similar footprint, we're proposing 3 1,500-foot units. That would allow us to long-term rent, sell, or rent to an office user. So we're building something that's a little bit different, a little bit smaller, a little bit more affordable is what we're looking to propose. That third unit triggered commercial district parking requirements, which is actually a 24-foot wide drive aisle to the rear. I've got 26 in my request as a fire marshal. Doesn't require 26, their preference is 26. They will go to the 24. So a 24-foot wide drive aisle on a 50-foot lot takes up a majority of my lot. So in order to get back to the rear and park it in the rear, it wouldn't allow for a building envelope that was reasonable to build any structure. So my request there is to allow a drive aisle in the front with the parking to be entirely in the front of the structure. There is a apartment complex, I think it's 6 or 7 lots down. Is there a photo of that?
Oh, the board does have it.
The board has it. That is front parked on Veritas Street. I don't know the exact address, but I did provide a photo for that. So we will be substantially less parking because our lot is 50 feet wide in its entirety. So I guess that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Does the parking that you proposed, I don't see any landscaping or there, I mean, I guess you are not required to have a tree island or anything, but there's
Sure.
nothing that
we will be required in the sidewalk buffer to have trees per the normal ordinance. I believe is 1 per 30 feet. So it'll be two inch caliber trees in that front, and then our normal landscape packages. We're not required a landscape architect on this one, but I mean there are definitely there's definitely landscaping proposed.
I'm sorry, Ms. Carpenek. Sorry, that's your hand.
Oh, no problem. Many times parking is provided off the alley. In this instance, why can't you provide it off the alley?
There is no improved alley between our property and the industrial in the rear. There's approximately a 12 to 15 foot drop, and it's just trees and overgrown. There's no improved alley in the rear.
Is there potential to improve it?
There's not, that I'm not on an individual basis. The city could probably improve it. There are structures on neighboring properties on the alley that have encroached over the years, sheds and the like, and the grade. It looks to me like it might have been an old railroad, because it's pretty substantial in its grade change from our lot to the next lot behind us.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions at this point? Yeah, I mean, on reading this, I didn't have too much problem with the setback issue because I do think it makes sense in these areas that are kind of mixed, where you have residences. But I guess the use, it says proposed residences, but you mentioned it could be office. You might rent it as an office. So is it going to be a residence or an office or what?
In the OR zone, we don't know whether we'll hang on to them or sell them as single family homes. They're technically condos. They're stacked flat 3 units.
Right.
They're sprinkled, everything they're required to be by code. And so, but the opportunity exists that an individual could purchase them, and in OR zone, they could put office users, small, like law firm or whatever it would be, in each unit independently. They could be rented. or they could be sold as single-family residences. They are condos, but they are zoned office. That's what that OR 20 allows.
So you could have an office building and a residence all in one.
I guess technically you could. I don't think that we would, that's not something that we as an owner would, one or the other would be the use. But that just hasn't been finally determined at this point. That could be the case. If you build two, it would be the same thing. The houses could be used as office as well, or they could be used, it is a commercial district regardless.
And you're required to have how many parking spaces?
In the UZO, it's 1.5 per unit per single family unit. So there's 6 proposed parking spaces.
Okay. How many would you have to have if it were an office?
In the UZO, it does not change that parking requirement. I mean, it definitely would require, if it were an office, more parking. Again, that's not where we're leaning. We're leaning towards building these as a for sale product because they'd be, a bit more affordable than what we would build if they were 2,200 square feet apiece. But
well, and I guess we're just giving you a variance on the location of parking. So if you sell it as an office and it requires more parking, you would not get that variance today.
That's correct.
You have to deal with that at a different time. So
correct.
Okay. Mr. Newton.
I know that you said you didn't think that you could do a building footprint if you move the parking to the back. I guess that's a bad way of saying this, but I guess what I'm thinking is I think I can see a way to get a drive to the back and have the 5 to 6 parking spaces back there, because you're only required, 5 by code if it's 1.5 per. But I guess have you explored the option of moving that? Because I like Mr. Taylor said, I don't have an issue with the frontage, but have you given thought to moving that? I guess what's the overall change in grade from the front to the back? Because I know you said that was kind of part of the issue.
It's not crazy. From the rear to the front is about, I think it's 3 to 4 feet. So just getting the side setback is just to get those modified French drain, get the overflows to the front rain garden. The challenge with the parking is because it's now with 3 units, it triggers commercial requirements. That drive aisle needs to be 24 feet minimum. 26 would be preferable for the fire marshal, and on a 50-foot wide site, we still would need a 5-foot setback on one side because we'd have pavement. So really that would leave you on a 50-foot site with a 26 feet, 21-foot wide buildable footprint. And that parking in the rear or the front would take up a majority of that. So it would pretty much eliminate the ability to do 3 units. It would be back to 2.
That helps me. I was thinking 12-foot drive aisle, but that makes a little bit more sense than being the 24-foot.
Correct. The residential is 12, and then once you go to 3 units, it triggers the 24-foot minimum.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions at this point? Did you have anything else to add?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing and thoughts from the board. Mr. Newton.
I think my biggest hang up here is that while it's zoned OR 20, its current use is as a residential street. And if this was my street, I would not want a big parking lot in front of a building on my street. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm having a hard time here with. And I understand his hardships, but I really do understand that. But at the same time, he could build 2 residences and make it work on this lot. This is just a small lot for 3 residences. I also understand the providing affordable housing and things like that. But so I guess that's my first thought on it, is that it's just going to kind of be ugly, for the neighbors on what is currently is a pretty residential street. So I don't know if other board members have some thoughts there.
Okay. Lisa, could you bring up the street overview, the one that, no, not that one.
Google.
Not that one.
That one?
That one. And then Ms. Davis.
I was just going to say that I agree with Mr. Newton. I don't have really an issue with the setback request, but I do have an issue with the parking variance request. I don't actually see the hardship here. It seems to me that this is sort of a self-imposed hardship by the design they chose. I think if they rework the design, they could build this within the code for parking requirements. And I'm still listening. I haven't made up my mind, but I'm having a harder leap to the parking variance. So that's it.
Okay. And if there are any questions anybody'd like to ask the applicant, I'm happy to open the public hearing again if there's, anything that would help you one way or the other. But that was my trouble with the application all along too, was that the side setback really didn't bother me a bit, but the way the parking worked and how it fit in with the rest of the neighborhood. And I do appreciate the applicant, sharing the, apartment complex down the road, but, just looking at the overview that I think everybody can see now, it may not be an anomaly on the side of the street it's on, but it certainly would be for across the street. And I do think that that's an issue. If the board is willing, I will make a motion that we approve we'll take each of these separately, that we approve the building width setback to allow a 5-foot setback on each side of this lot for any proposed building. Mr. Newton.
Can you amend that to say that you approve reducing the frontage to 80%? Because that's really what we're dealing with here is the frontage. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as we would, and I'm asking you as one of our architects, if we reduce the frontage to 80%, that would allow a 0 setback. And then that's okay. You just say reduce it to 80%, so at least one side has.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Is that way if he reduced it to 2 residences, he could build the driveway to go to the back of the lot, and then at that 12-foot drive aisle, or smaller drive aisle, he could build that and move the building to one side or the other. I think that would make it a little bit more flexible for him.
I'll accept that amendment. Is there any objection to that amendment?
I'm sorry, Mr. Taylor. The 80% is only 10 feet. The drive aisle minimum is 12, so it won't allow a drive aisle to go back at 80%. But
okay. All right, with and I get that public hearing's closed. So
I understand that. If it gets passed up, I just want to let you know.
Thank you. There is a motion to, and that would allow the building as drawn, but they'd have to figure out the parking, or we can address that in a minute if folks want to allow the parking variance as requested. But the motion on the floor is to allow an 80% frontage rather than the 100% frontage is required by codes based on the hardship of the nature of this property being residential and the narrowness of the lot. And was there a second to that? Anybody? Mr. Newton.
I'm good with that. I'm questioning if we should go to 75 to allow a 12-foot drive aisle, 75% of the.
Yeah. Well, or 80% at the second floor. I mean, can't you cantilever something 3 feet if you needed to?
Yeah, you could, but I don't know if that's what we want to force them to do there.
All right, so 75%. I will accept that amendment and change the motion to 75% frontage.
I can second that.
Is that a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All right, then we will call the question on that and start with Mr. Newton.
In favor.
Ms. Davis?
In favor.
Ms. Carpenter?
In favor.
I'll vote in favor also. And now the question of the parking. Thoughts? I guess the real question is, is there, there seems to be some enough concern that seems like that the board's leaning toward not approving this. The question is there anything that the applicant could do to the original proposal that would make it acceptable, and maybe so, maybe not. If not, then somebody can make a motion. Mr. Newton.
My thought on it is this is by determining the number of units is what's created this hardship, and that makes it self-imposed. I don't know if anyone else has the same idea on that, but that would be my thought on it.
They're gonna make a motion to deny, Ms. Davis?
I was just going to say that I agree with Mr. Newton, and if he turned his comment into a motion, I would second it.
Then let's make it a motion. I'll move that we deny the parking variance based on a self-imposed hardship.
And Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Davis. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, we'll start with Mr. Newton.
In favor.
Ms. Davis?
In favor.
Ms. Carpenter?
In favor.
I'll vote in favor also. That motion passes. All right, good luck. Thanks. All right, next case. I think the next case is 184.
Next case is 2020-184, and also case 2020-185 is the same.
I'm going to ask the board that this is the same subdivision, and these properties are next to each other. And unless there's an objection from a member of the board, I'd like to hear these cases together, and then we will vote on each property separately. But I believe, based on my reading of the packet, that the issues for both of these properties are the same, and they are right next door to each other. So I think we can hear the cases for each, unless the applicant describes one as substantially different than the other. I think the hardship should be the same. Okay. And then we can vote on each separately, unless there's, by a show of hands, objection from the board. All right, seeing none, then we will hear these cases.
Is there anyone here in opposition to case 2020-184 or 2020-185? Okay.
All right, sir, if you would state your name and address, and you'll have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Sure. Name is Amir Roshan, and I'm here for 705 and 709 Knoll, Harpeth Knoll Court. And
Chairman, I don't know if we had the presentation on this one, or is there a staff presentation?
Let me go ahead and introduce the slides.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. Cole.
Okay, so both of these cases, looking at 705 Harpeth Knoll Court and 709 Harpeth Knoll Court, they're requesting a front setback variance on both properties. The requirement is a 55-foot front setback. Here's an overview of the parcel aerial. Here's the site plan showing, this is for the 705 property. Again, 55-foot required by the contextual average, and they're requesting 30. So I'll go through the slides quickly, and then the appellant can proceed. Here's the parcel, street view. And again, case 185 is for the property next door. Site plan, what is required versus what is proposed. Again, same ask. And that's it. So if you would like to go ahead and proceed.
Yeah, and Lisa, would you take this back to just the view of the home, the lot?
Well, we'll go to 184.
Just there.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Sorry.
So when this subdivision was developed, initially was a 20-foot setback but as the previous owners built this, slowly the setbacks changed because the averages started changing. And we just bought this, and we don't know any history of the property because some of the neighbors approached me and they complained, how come the grass hasn't been cut? And we just bought this property end of July, actually July 31st or 30th. So, and it shows on my application as if I am with R&S Rental Properties, which I am not with them. Those are the previous owners and also the developers. So people thought I'm building these to rent, and I mean, there was another confusion right there, which we're not in the business of building and renting. We build a couple of homes a year and sell them to people, and then we build again. And so my plan is to really build two nice quality homes. The reason I'm asking for the setback, these properties have a steep slope in the back, and then there is a 100-year flood zone in the back, and it's heavily treed. And the way the setback is, if we average it, yes, it's about 55. That means I have to build a 24 feet, retaining wall and build a house and basically filled in, kind of gravel and dirt to make it and remove a lot of trees. So I thought, well, the house next to me on the right-hand side is I'm facing. It's a duplex. I think they are at 44 feet frontage. The house on my left, 703, is at 37.5. But when we go average everything else in the neighborhood, that's where the 55 comes. I'm not here really to save any money. I mean, I build what I have to build. My goal is I'm looking at a family that is going to live in this for many years to come. Are they going to have a decent, garage to get in, a driveway, a backyard? I mean, so that's why I'm asking to adjust. I don't know if 30 feet is reasonable. I can live with whatever because every 5 feet shortens the retaining wall and I have to remove less trees. So that's the only reason I'm doing that. I've had phone conversation with some neighbors. Once they understood, they were fine. But then again, some send, notes to Mr. Rosenberg that they don't want to see any house built there. I mean, that's not we're asking if we should build a house or not. We were asking to adjust the setback to build two quality homes. So I do what I have to build two nice homes. The only thing is what kind of elevation, what kind of house I'm going to be able to build. Is it going to be a 3,000 on a steep, or just build up 1,800 and avoid getting into the steep slope? So it's really a matter of that.
Okay. Ms. Davis, you had a question?
Yes. Sorry, took me a minute to get off mute. I was wondering, the applicant talked about the slope in the retaining wall, and in the application, one of the reasons stated for the hardship was like being at the end of a flood zone. I guess I was just wondering if the applicant could sort of connect this setback variance request and why this particular setback and how that relates to sort of being in the flood zone and the slope that he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yes, as the house sets back, you get closer to the flood zone line that you see on the back. And that means we have to remove, is a slope, bear in mind that we have to remove a lot of dirt to be able to put a retaining wall. So you get closer and closer to that flood zone, which after the flood zone is a baseball park. So all of that together is really not just the flood zone or the steep slope. It's just all of it together at this point after all these years. And the previous owners have had them for almost 30 years. And now I understand why they never built only those two lots. They built everything else but they left these two lots alone and they didn't touch it. Now I understand why, but again, I bought them not knowing what I'm dealing with. Now that I've, people looking at it, they keep telling me what I need to do to stay away from a lot of disruption.
Yeah, Lisa, could you go back to the street view?
Sorry.
So you talked about removing a lot of trees, and can you tell me on the drawing that you have you have two drawings, one setback at 30 feet that you'd like, and the second one you have setback at 55 feet that would be required. How far from the street is the tree line that we're looking at now?
They're right at 60. Right at 60 feet. So the house actually, the garage is going to start right where those tree lines are if we stay with what we have. Basically, most of the house is going to be on filled-in retaining wall. But if I come ahead a little bit, at least put some of the house on the flat area.
Okay. And we do have, you said you talked to some neighbors. We do have some letters from neighbors saying that they, are concerned about the being closer to the street, and addressing some of the issues that you had raised about, just the nature of the property. But we also have, and I don't remember seeing this last week. I think it came in Tuesday from your councilman, Mr. Rosenberg, who had said that, he appreciates your thorough communication, but in evaluating the feedback from the neighbors and the plans, it wouldn't be conducive to the continuity of the established neighborhood to place homes that are more imposing in stature closer to the street. So it sounds like for your discussion with him that the homes you wanted to build were bigger than some of the ones that are there, and he felt like that's not conducive to the neighborhood. So he,
it's a 2,200 to 2,400 square foot of homes, which is pretty much in that area. That's what most homes are. And we have only 70 feet of frontage, which one of the neighbors complained they don't like to see a front face garage. They wanted to be on the side, but I don't have the width to have a turn where I can put it in the back. It's just by the time I go back. And that was some of the complaint. And there is only 7 homes in that cul-de-sac. I send mails to 135 people. That's what they told me I need to send it to. And 2 of the neighbors called me over the phone. They seemed like understood, but I don't know what they decided on their own. I went over it with them. I sent them pictures of homes that I have built so they can go look.
Right.
Like I said, I will build what I have to. I would go with whatever setback that I get, but every 5 feet helps me have a smaller retaining wall in the back and probably less trees to cut. And that's all I'm looking at. Otherwise, we put whatever we can on those lots, 1,500 square foot, I'm fine. I'm not looking at numbers, I'm looking at quality of a home that I'm going to build. So if I have to put a 1,200, I'll put a 1,200 square foot. But is that good for the neighbors? Probably not, because the prices drop as is a smaller home. It's going to be a 250 rather than a $350,000 home next door.
Okay. Ms. Davis, you had a question?
Yeah, I had a question for the applicant.
Sure.
I understand, so from looking through the packet and listening to your testimony, I have an understanding of what your hardship is, and I think you understand that some of your neighbors and your council member have sort of expressed opposition to your proposed request. And I'm wondering, have you thought through, or do you have an offer of like what a good compromise would be? Because I can understand that this is a sloped lot, that it goes into a floodplain. You're going to have to build a retaining wall. I understand that sort of being your hardship, but I also understand the neighbors' concerns about context and continuity of their neighborhood. And so I'm wondering if you would sort of, instead, if you didn't get 30, what's something that you could work within on building sort of on the footprint that you have?
I would imagine 40 feet would be compromised because I have 701 Harper's Knoll Court at 37.9, and I have 703 Harper's Knoll Court at 44.1. So somewhere between in the 40s. I mean, I'm fine. Like I said, I knew 30. I didn't want to ask for 30. I guess they asked me, what do you want? I said 30 would be good. I mean, but now I understand, I'm not going to, even if I had it, I probably still have to build it where it matches the whole, cul-de-sac where you go turn around. But I would say a good compromise would be somewhere in the 40s rather than to be somewhere in the 50s. And I'm fine with that.
And did you say the house next door that was, you said one was about 38 and the other one was 45?
44.
44?
On each side of me. Those are the two immediate. Now they have one at 66, which is when you get to the corner, which of course the corner homes are big lots and they sit way back. So that was another average that they put in here, but they came up with 55. But if I'm looking at those two homes, and this is a circular drive, so I'm in line with them. I'm not going to block them or.
So 44 would put you in line with the home that's.
Yeah, with the next door neighbor, which is a duplex, is a rental property that they have.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Did you have anything else to add at this point?
No, I'm fine. I thank you for your time, and just want to assure everyone, by the time I'm done, the neighbor's going to love me because that's what it's always been. We care. I've lived in Nashville 42 years, and we're just not a big builder. We buy a couple of lots per year. We put personal touch. All the neighbors end up, coming and visiting, and actually the grandmother at 701 Harper's Knoll has already told me she would love to buy one of the homes because she wants to be next to the grandkids. So she's already sent me an email, but she doesn't live there to give it her opinion.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And
thank you.
We'll close the public hearing. And Lisa, would you bring up the overview of the street?
Well, this one with the footprints, or do you want the aerial?
Well, that one's probably better. I just wanted to, just to give a context to see. Just to get a perspective on the concept and thoughts from the board. Mr. Newton.
My thought is that I think that 44 feet would be a pretty good compromise. I understand the neighbors and what their concerns are, and I think they're well founded, and so I think that for that 44 foot would be an appropriate compromise. That's in line with the home next to it. But willing to hear what the other board members say.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking that 44, 45, maybe just it's just a hair behind the house next to it. But I think you're splitting hairs at that point. But I tend to agree, and I think that's Councilman Rosenberg isn't here, but I do think that and I can't speak for him, but that meets the spirit of of what I'm hearing. Because it's on a cul-de-sac, at least the one that's in red on our screen now, 07, is impacted by the road dipping into the property. But I think if you're in line with your neighbor's home, then and your neighbor's home isn't radically different than some of the others, then that does seem to make sense. Ms. Karpanek?
I tend to agree what you both are saying, but I'm looking at the survey and it's saying that 711 is 65 feet back from the setback is 66 feet. And it seems like 709 might be next to 711. And so that seems like 44 seems to be too, for that.
Where are you seeing 7?
Setback survey.
Yeah, it's on the survey number 9, and it talks about the front setback calculations. I found it on one of the documents in the board packet. So I guess I don't have a good understanding of which ones are set back, how far on any drawing. So I'm just trying to piece this together with what I see in our board packet. So right now I'm not that comfortable with the 44.
Yeah, it looks like page
So
40.
I'm sorry, Christine, can you tell me where, is there a page in the packet that you're looking at? So I just want to.
There is, page 40 is what I was looking at.
Okay, page 40. And then where do you see? Oh, I see it's in the verbiage.
Right, it's not on a drawing.
Okay.
No,
I see. So it's not a, well, see, that's what I was looking at, the pictures and not the text. So thank you. So we're looking, so ours are on the odd side. And so 703 is next door to 705 and it's 44. And then 711.
That's presumably 709, I presume. Yeah,
and that's one that's 66, but Lisa, can you help us on the sheet, on the thing that's on the screen now that has the red at 007? Do you know where's the home? Is that on?
This is 709.
That's 709. Right.
I'm sorry, let me go back a screen. So 711 would be this parcel?
That's the duplex.
All right, yeah, hang on. And so that's 711, and that's 44 feet from the street.
Oh, that says 66.1, I believe.
Which is 66?
711, Harpeth.
And is that the one that's 005 on this, what we're looking at?
It's this one right here.
So that one is 66 feet back.
So parcel viewer doesn't show a 7-Eleven in there. It shows the adjacent one is 713.
This one is 713 that I'm.
713, if you look, it, I don't know, purposely was built way in the back.
So I'm sorry, sir, which lot is 711 and which is 713?
Looking at this one, is this one 711?
That's the duplex. That's the, I believe it's 711. If I'm 709, then it goes up 2. I'm not sure.
So the one that is at the very bottom of the screen is 713. That's 78 or 77 feet. That one's, the next one's 66 feet. The next two are your lots.
That's 701, which is 38.
Yeah, which is 701?
It's across the street. The one that is positioned exactly like my lot, which is so close.
You talking about this one, sir?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Newton, did you have a question?
Nope, sorry, forgot to put my hand down.
I missed the last meeting and I'm feeling rusty looking over at my computer to make sure I get your question, so I apologize. Sorry, Lisa, did you have any?
If somebody can pull up on Parcel Viewer and we can go ahead and verify the addresses of the parcels that they provided for average to make sure that you use the 4 nearest properties. I think that's what we're trying to determine.
Okay.
Yeah, parcel viewer has me even more confused looking at these numbers.
Let me see if I can get a copy of something.
Now we did, I know
okay,
that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm sorry, hang on one second. The public hearing's closed, so we can ask you questions, but just give us 1 second, and we may ask for some clarification in a second, but. Okay. I don't know if that's valuable. You know, we have Yeah, you know, if the board, with the board's permission, our zoning administrator, Mr. Michael, has said he would go and try to determine some more of this information. And if the board is will accept this, I would say, let's just put this discussion on pause while he does that. It might take 5 or 10 minutes. And in the meantime, hear the short-term rental case that's there. So, sir, we're just gonna hold off for a few minutes. If you don't mind having a seat, and then we'll have this, as soon as he's back, then we'll take up this question again. Because I think that you see, the board really does want to get this right.
Sure.
And if we understand it and can see it, then that'll I think help everybody.
Thank you so much.
All right, so just give us one. Is that okay with anybody object by show of hands? Is that acceptable to everybody? All right, Mr. Michael is already on his way to his office to print something out for us to see, or send it in a way so everybody can see. And let's go ahead and hear that short-term rental case.
Okay. The short-term rental case is case 2020-181, located at 108 Casper Avenue. And it's an item A appeal challenging the zoning administrator's denial of a short-term rental permit after the rental permit has expired. Is there anyone here in opposition to case 2020-181? Okay. So first, Mr. McBroom, who works in the short-term rental department. Oh, he has stepped out for a moment also. We should probably go ahead and take a break until we can locate the short-term rental representative to discuss this.
Yeah, let's just, see.
Is this the only other case that has to be heard?
Correct. This is the final case to be heard.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
We're going to verify that Mr. McBroom is not within arm's reach, if you'll give us just a minute.
All right, we have Mr. McBroom, and got to your case a lot sooner than we thought we were going to. Sorry about that. So we're looking at case 181 that where the applicant operated after the permit expired. So if you could just fill us in and.
All right, good afternoon, board. On April the 20th of 2018, non-owner occupied short-term rental permit was issued. On March the 29th of 2019, it was renewed. On April the 20th of 2020, the permit expired. On June 22nd of 2020, notice of violation was sent by Campbell Paget. On July the 2nd and 6th, the advertisements were removed and confirmed by host compliance. On July the 22nd, 2020, the case was resolved. And then on July 28, 2020, BZA appeal was filed.
What do you mean by resolved?
Well, when notice of violation is sent that a case is open, if they come into compliance within the remedial period, then the case is resolved. In other words, if they take their advertisements down and cancel their booking.
Oh, I see. Okay. Was that resolved? Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So.
Yeah, and then there were 3 documented stays after the permit expired. There were no documented stays after the notice of violation was received. And there was 1 documented complaint on September 6th of 2019 for a loud group and over occupancy, which was not confirmed.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Mr. McBroom? All right, but you don't have, you said there's no violation that you all are aware of after the permit expired and no evidence of behavior that would cause us.
Well, there were 3 documented stays after the expiration. However, once the notice of violation was received, there were no documented stays thereafter.
Okay, so after your notification, there's no evidence of behavior that would cause us alarm.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, ma'am, if you'll come up and state your name and address and tell us what happened with your rental permit.
Hi, I'm Madison Cox at 108 Casper Avenue. So got the renewal notice in April, I think he said, and it was during COVID, stuck it in my work bag, didn't pull it back out. So honest mistake, truly, like I'm normally very on top of things like that, and it slipped by me because we didn't have any guests. So I was shocked when I got the notice saying, oh, hey, guess what? Your permit expired 2 months ago and you're in trouble. So I immediately, like the day I opened the letter, I think it was a Friday or Saturday. So Monday I started reapplying. I actually got all my stuff together. Got it before I could even talk to Dave. I had it ready, already mailed my letters, took my advertisement down. And so my understanding was with the letter, that as long as, like, I took the advertisement down, I reapplied, it had a date of like July 29th, I don't remember the exact one, it was the 27th or the 29th, as long as you come back into compliance by then, no legal action will be taken against you. So I took my listing down, but had 2 or 3, I think he said, stays during that time. So hindsight, you know, it's 2020, you look back and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't have a permit, so I understand.
But you haven't rented it since July 29th? Or when?
I have to look at my, no, I definitely haven't, because before then though, there were a few stays during the time period I was trying to get my permit renewed. I had some stays during that time that had booked before I had gotten that notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
But none since the end of July.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I, like this, it's non-owner occupied, but we live there. We got that permit. When I initially went to apply, I just wanted to get a regular permit. And Dave was like, no, you can get this, do it. Even if you live there, if you decide to move later, you can deal with it then. But, so it's non-owner occupied, but it is my primary residence. I live there, and it is our main source of income. So it's really, you know, we thankfully had already been dealing with COVID and we're used to not having people there and we're making up money elsewhere, but it definitely has been tough to not have that income during this time. But like I said, when I got the denial, I was shocked because I had no idea that I had done anything wrong in the meantime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board? Anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing. Discussion. This seems to be the case of I'm sorry, Ms. Carpenter.
I was probably going to say what you were just going to say, I'm guessing.
Okay.
But I always look favorably when someone does have a permit and they accidentally forgot to renew it. Those things happen. So in my opinion, a shorter penalty should be imposed. And I can make a motion if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay, so I will move to allow the appellant to permit within, well, how about Monday?
Okay. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second that, Steve.
Mr. Newton seconded that motion.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
I think, but
We'll vote. Question and vote. Ms. Carpenter.
I'm in favor.
Mr. Newton,
In favor?
Ms. Davis.
In favor.
I'll vote in favor also. So that means that you can, you are eligible to apply for a permit on Monday. Don't do anything till you actually have the permit in hand, but you are eligible to apply for a new permit on Monday.
Wonderful. All right, thank you guys so much.
All right, and Mr. Michael is back to tell us some more information.
David, were you able to pull a parcel viewer from your laptop?
I could probably pull up, yeah.
Let's do that real quick. That's going to answer Christine's question.
All right, so we're gonna go back to case, I think it's 184 and 185. Is this what you're looking for?
Uh-huh.
All right, so what?
Plug in either one of those three.
All right. 709 Harper Mill Court.
Zoom out.
I'm sorry, dude.
Just zoom out and make it some, the plus minus.
It's three.
Oh,
there.
Minus. And the question would be, did they identify the correct properties for this measurement purpose? So these are our two properties at issue, I think. Click that one, double check the address.
So,
it appears that 17 and 13, 700 and 704 may be the right property.
all right, so we're have Mr. Michael, we're looking at the parcel viewer now to try to figure out just what addresses go with the corresponding properties on the screen that the board members and the public can see. No, you're fine. Yeah. So 701 is, well, it says it's 008 on this map. See, that says 701 right there. And then this one is 705 and this one is 709. These are the two
that are at issue, yeah. If 01 has been built since our last look, that would matter.
That may be.
But to this lower side,
and then,
these two are clearly the next two that would count because they're built.
And that's 700. And then how do you know how far this one is?
I don't know. Well, he's got 713. When you're looking at there, and then it's 717. Not. I can figure out where his typical 703 is. Seeing that 703 exists. Unless this is number. It may be number.
Well, board, I appreciate your patience. We've had a pretty short meeting, and if we can get some of this information, it may save us all a little time later, but I know it's a little frustrating that we didn't have all this ahead of time. 701, it looks like it says 701 on the survey that Christina was talking about. It says 701 is 37.9 feet away, and the parcel viewer says that 701 would correspond with 008 on this map. But what we can find is 711 and 713, so we're not sure exactly why.
He got a measurement on it. Are you sure it's 701? No, because there's no such thing.
And this overhead doesn't show 701 being built.
He's got to mean 700 when he says that. He's got to, because there's such a thing as 700.
Now, the house that you see at the end of the cul-de-sac in parcel viewer is listed as 700. also appears to be closest to the street, so they're trying to decide is 701 on this survey really 700 you see at the end of the cul-de-sac.
So it doesn't matter much what this request is, whichever one's requirement is. Well, yeah, I almost have to do that, because what he's asking for is going to be less than he's like, they're still seeking variance. And the board can muck around.
713
versus 49 versus 57. He's still asking for 30 or 40 or something.
Can you verify which ones these are on here? On
Yeah, he's got to be able to.
It's not.
Some of them are wrong. There's no such thing as 701, for example.
Okay.
Or one of them is no such thing.
It should be 009, 0,
Yeah.
005, 004.
Yeah. Somebody's telling me to defer it.
Yeah.
My line up here.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, John Michael, zoning administrator for the Metropolitan Government. Having reviewed the setback surveys more carefully, we need a new setback survey. That's really the shortest version. It looks like there's just a factual error, no fault of the appellants. Just there's some data error in the both of the 709 and 705 Harpeth Knoll Court setback surveys. The secretary of the board, Mrs. Minton, and I both agreed that just with that corrected information, the board would be fully equipped to make the decision. To be clear, there will still be a request for a variance from the reduction of almost any number that pops up in that contextual street setback requirement. They're still going to be seeking less. So the yes/no question of will they still need a variance? Yes. How much as a question of percentages, although we'll really be determining by this updated survey. So if for some reason the board saw fit to proceed with a vote on the requested distance or some other distance in terms of the street setback, they could. However, to the extent the board wants to have that more specific information with the correct contextual street setback average requirement pursuant to the zoning code, then the smart move is to go ahead and ask for a probably one meeting deferral at least. We can do that administratively a second meeting if need be, just to make sure they've got time to get that information. Yeah, naturally, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, board, you have the luxury of not being in the middle of the tornado of us trying to figure this out, and again, just trying to make our lives less complicated with implications down the road. If we can settle something, that'd be great. But it does seem to be the case where parcel viewer and the survey don't match, and it's probably worth a little bit more time to get that figured out so that we'll really know just how far all these things are. Mr. Newton, you had a comment?
Based on the mumbling that we hear constantly in the background, I can certainly understand your comment there.
Yeah. Well, we're just trying to do the parcel viewer, and we can't find 7-Eleven. I don't see on parcel viewer, so I think they just got to do some. And 701 looks to be something that there doesn't appear to be a home on 701. There appears to be a home on 700, and that would make sense because it appears to be shorter. So they need to do some clarification. So I'll move that we defer this one meeting to get that clarification. And again, after the conversation we've had, there seems to be certainly a willingness to provide some relief. But we need to really get the more detail to answer Christina's question about just where the other properties are. So the motion is to defer one meeting. Ms. Carpenter.
I'll gladly second.
All right. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? We'll vote. Mr. Newton.
In favor?
Ms. Davis.
In favor.
Ms. Carpenter.
Also in favor.
I'll vote in favor also, and so that meeting, or that those two cases, I'm sorry, we're going to have to do this. That was for case 184. We'll have to do this again for 185 just to be official. So I'll move that we defer case 185 one meeting as well. Ms. Carpenter?
Also in favor, or also second. Sorry.
Okay. We'll call the question on that with Mr. Newton.
In favor.
Ms. Davis,
In favor.
Ms. Carpenter.
In favor.
I'll vote in favor also. So your cases are deferred for just to the next meeting, and you understand what we need just for clarification.
Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you so much. And I think that's it.
That's it.
All right, so we are adjourned. Thanks everybody for your patience, and we will see you the first Thursday of October. Have a great rest of September.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.